Today, we are going to be predicting every single thing that Nintendo does in 2025, and I am going to start off right now with a banger. Nintendo Pictures is a studio that was originally created in 1991 by a man named Kenji Yoshida. He produced all sorts of different video projects, particularly in the animation field, and Nintendo purchased them and just announced that they were going to change the name, which was Dynamo Pictures at the time, to Nintendo Pictures as of July 14th, 2022. That means that by 2025, about the midway point, this studio will have been Nintendo Pictures for about 3 years, which means they will have been working on whatever the heck they're working on for almost 3 years. And I truly do believe that is enough time for them to show us something. And every single year, we have had a trend of them updating us on some sort of new movie or a Mario movie or the sequel to the Mario movie or the Zelda movie getting announced. We have had year after year after year, some sort of new visual content for us to enjoy or for them to announce and let us know that it is coming. And so in my first prediction here, I am going to say that Nintendo in the year 2025 will announce their very first TV show. And I'm going to go a little bit out on a limb here. This is kind of a prediction within a prediction, but I do believe that the TV show that they are going to announce will be a Splatoon anime, and I really think this is a good idea. My other thought was like an Animal Crossing anime, because they have really been trying, or I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be an anime, it could just be some sort of animated show, but because it's located in Japan and it's Nintendo, I just figured that they would want to expand their IP in more of a way that people enjoy in that culture, and so I assume it's going to be some sort of an anime, but I could be wrong and it's just some sort of animated show. I do believe, however, it will be Splatoon. It could be Animal Crossing, but it'll be Splatoon because that IP has been rapidly expanding. I believe they also made some sort of comic book series out of that. They've really enjoyed the success the Splatoon series has brought and just the culture shift around Nintendo in general. I mean, Splatoon is one of the big Nintendo franchises now, even though it's not even 10 years old. It's just up there with the big boys, and now you see, I mean, on all of the different logos, there's like a Nintendo Store logo that has all of the different mascots on there, including Mario and Link and Samus and Isabelle and all of these different people, and Splatoon and Inkling is on there now as well. So that really shows how they believe that Splatoon is a part of their future and is one of those big pillars, and they're going to want to cement that with a Splatoon show. Now, if you really thought I was going out on a limb by predicting that it was going to be a Splatoon show, here is me going off to the very edge of this limb. I'm not even on it anymore. I'm just kind of hanging midair, cartoon style in the air. Here is my final prediction for this Nintendo Pictures segment. I truly think that in 2025, maybe not even 2025, maybe beyond, but this is my video for next year. I think Nintendo will put out some sort of streaming service. Now, they don't have enough content to put enough stuff on there. That's why this feels a little janky. But I wonder if a part of Nintendo Switch Online, they allow you to view the Mario movie. They allow you to view whatever this new Splatoon show is going to be, because I really have a hard time believing that they're going to reach out to some other studio like Disney Plus or Netflix. I don't know. They could, but I feel like they're going to want to capitalize on all of this success and make everything in-house. Very similarly to the Nintendo Music app, I think they might expand Nintendo Switch Online, add another part to that expansion pass, maybe even make a separate tier in which you can have Switch Online, all of the benefits with that, the expansion pass, all the benefits with that, and then the new tier will give you access to the Mario movie and promising more future Nintendo media to come in the future. So it'll launch with the Splatoon show, it'll already have the Mario movie on it, and then maybe they'll even let you view that Mario movie sequel for free next time. But I think in 2025 we might hear rumors, or at least a little bit of something from the company about a potential streaming service addition. I bet that's not what you thought I would say, because I have not heard this anywhere, and I felt incredibly proud of myself for thinking of these ideas. So before we continue on to my next prediction for 2025, make sure you like and subscribe today's video. It really helps the channel out a lot, and I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'm not sure if that's possible, but I've been putting out so much more high quality content in my opinion, and I'm trying really hard to keep that as the standard going forward. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. If you want early access to videos just like this, make sure you join my membership program. It's just $5 a month to get early access to videos. So thank you. You are the best. Let's continue on. My next couple of predictions are going to be focused entirely on the Switch successor, and I think it is going to be revealed in January. That is my first prediction. There have been a lot of rumors and speculation within the past month or two about it being revealed potentially by the end of January, and I'd seen a lot of people saying February as well. But with all of the recent leaks and all of the different advertisements of these different companies getting these weird Switch 2 accessories out there and kind of revealing what the console even looks like, I mean, we typically already know at this point, and especially with the Switch 2, we have known a lot of details that I'm sure Nintendo doesn't want us to know already, so it's unfortunate to see, but I've heard that a lot of people are saying Nintendo Switch 2 is going to get revealed soon, and that is actually my other prediction, is that its name is going to be the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's going to just be that because of its simplicity and it's best for marketing, because with the Wii to the Wii U, people were confused about the U and why they were continuing on, because it looked similar to the actual Wii, but then there was a gamepad, so people didn't know, is it a new console or is it an add-on to the Wii? And by that point, the people didn't care either. Even if it was just an add-on, I don't know if anyone would have just bought it just because of that. And maybe some people thought it was just an add-on. They went to the stores, and once they saw it was charged for like a regular console price, they were like, no way, I'm not buying this. And it was just confusing. So for the Nintendo Switch to move on successfully to the next generation of console, it has to look similar, but not too similar, and at the same time, it's got to be clear that it is just the next evolution of the console life. Just how the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, everyone knows that the next number in that series knows it is the next iteration of that console. So now, Nintendo Switch 2, for simplicity, we have been calling it that for so long at this point that people would be confused if we changed its name. Of course, Nintendo can do whatever they want, and whatever they say it's going to be, it will just stick anyways, but I really do believe they're going to stick with that Nintendo Switch 2 moniker. And, of course, like I said before, I believe it will be revealed in January, quite possibly within the first couple weeks of January. So then my next prediction is, I do believe that they will have a Nintendo Switch 2 presentation similar to the 2017 Nintendo Switch presentation. I hope that is true, but I also think it is smart for them to do that because they know we have announced, backwards compatibility. From their perspective, they're thinking, yeah, they know that, and then they know it's going to be revealed by March, so let's just get it all out of the way right now, everything you need to know about this console, and then we can tell them everything we want to know about the games. Now, I do think that the reveal is going to be amped up a little bit sooner than they had expected, so sometime in January, mid-January, maybe even late, but I feel like mid is probably when they're going to reveal it. But I do think that the presentation for the Nintendo Switch 2, going over all the specs and games and such, will still be whenever they had originally planned it, because at that point, the leaks aren't as important because the console itself is all they really cared about revealing for themselves, so the actual presentation will probably be sometime in either February or March. I really doubt that they would wait longer than that, because my next prediction is that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be released and in our hands by May. Now, typically you would want to give a console a little bit longer of room to breathe before you reveal and release it. That time in between reveal and release is so important for them to hype everything up, but I think what they learned from the Switch and NX days, they revealed that console in October of 2016, they had the January presentation in which they told us everything about it, and then March 3rd, really only like 2 months, a month and a half later, they released the console. So it was only 5 months in between revealing the actual console and then actually releasing it. So I don't think that they need as much time as most people would use in between the reveal and release, because the Nintendo Switch 2 already has so much hype behind it. They don't really need to build up that anticipation any more than they already have. This entire year was really, we thought that 2024 was the year. We thought that 2024 was when the Switch 2 would come out and we would have been playing it by now. And if I had had a YouTube channel this time a year ago, I would have predicted that for them as well. But we know obviously that did not end up being the case. Now we know for sure the Switch 2 will be revealed by this end of the fiscal year, and it will probably release within 2025. I mean, I would hope by this time next year we will be playing it, but obviously that isn't a certain thing. I just don't believe that, coming back to this whole point here, that they need that much time to market it, and they're going to just take that little bit of time that they've got, push out those trailers, the hype is going to be there, and I think they're learning that people's attention spans and willingness to wait for something isn't as long as it used to be. For example, Tears of the Kingdom, it ended up selling incredibly well upon release, but because it took so long for that game to come out, I think people were soured a little bit on what it ended up being. And I remember back in probably 2019 or something like that, Reggie Fils-Aimé came out and said, oh, we try as a company to make sure that when we reveal a game, it isn't at least a year away. That way you don't have to wait over a year and a half or 2 years for a game to come out. And of course there are delays and such that they cannot predict, in which you might not be able to play a game that you see a year from now, but for the most part, they said that they tried to keep it between a year between reveal and release. And so they have actually stuck to that pretty well for a lot of these games. Tears of the Kingdom, obviously, like I said, was the exception to that, and that is kind of why you see people being soured on those games. But I do think that they're going to try to do the same thing with this console. Not make us think about it too long, not make us wait for it too long. That hype is already there, they know it. They just need to reveal and release it. It doesn't have to be super long. And by the way, January to May is about 5 months anyways, so that's plenty of time for them to reveal and release it. That also lets the Nintendo Switch just have a last little bit of life. It gives that fiscal year, the last year for Switch, just all to itself. And so starting in that May, mid-quarter 2, quarter 3 era, that's when the Switch 2 will really take over, and by the holiday season, they will have made sure they have enough stock of this console. They'll have a good grasp on what people are buying and when they're buying it and how much of it they're buying, so they'll be able to actually absolutely just flood the stores with all of these things, and then the parents will come out of the woodwork and all the people will come on Black Friday and they'll just get so much money for this console. Now, about the actual Switch 2 itself, there are some things I would like to predict about it. Number one, the Joy-Con, it's just pretty much confirmed at this point that the rail system is gone. Thank goodness. That actual click is iconic, sure, but it was time for a change. The rail system just wasn't working very well. The Joy-Con were some of the jankiest parts of this generation for Nintendo. Now, these new Joy-Con will be magnetically attached to the sides of the console. I am buying into those leaks and rumors. I truly do think that is the case. And moving forward, the Nintendo Switch 2 logo will probably look something like having the actual sides of the Joy-Con snapped together, and then on the right side of it, the 2 will drop down. So that's my prediction for that. Now, a lot of people have also said that on the right side of the Joy-Con, there will be a home button, but below the home button will be a new button with a C on it, and that is one of the most mysterious parts of the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, a lot of people have said maybe this is like a chat button and you press it and then it lets you activate voice chat somehow. I don't agree with this theory because it doesn't make sense. It simply doesn't make sense to me. Why would you put that on the system itself rather than just having it accessed through some button on the interface? That just doesn't make sense to me. So another theory was maybe you could connect it to your TV, so it's like a Wii U type thing, except you just stream it to your TV. I don't think that necessarily makes sense either. I don't know what a good answer for this button could be. I don't think it's related to the C. I don't know why the C is on there, but I don't think it's going to be something with the C. And no, it's not the capture function because the left button on the left Joy-Con is still there, and that is obviously where the capture button was on the original Switch, and it hasn't changed in style or model, so I definitely think that's still the capture button. So I'm just going to go out on a weird limb here and say that I predict the C button is a shortcut method. So you press the button and whatever you have pre-installed lets you shortcut to whatever it is. And you can change it and you can kind of mod it to where you can press it once and it takes you to the eShop, or you press it twice and it takes you to photos. Maybe you press it 3 times and it takes you to something else. Pressing the button is like some sort of a shortcut method, and that's the original idea I could think of. I couldn't think of anything else, and everyone is talking about it, so I'm just gonna say it is just a shortcut button. So a lot of people have been talking about different models for the Switch 2, how it's going to launch with more of a spruced up pricey version and then more of a budget version that's just a little bit better than the Switch, and I don't know why they would do that. I honestly think it would be smarter for them to just keep a regular model and then have that model just be the good one, but I don't know. Maybe they're thinking about adding different features that are a little bit more expensive and they don't want to have to sell that for a higher price and then end up absolutely cutting off lots of their audience. So maybe that's the case. I'm just going to predict that there are 2 models, and that one of them is going to be $400 and that the other one is going to be $450. A lot of people are saying $400 or $350, try to keep it as cheap as possible, but come on, if the original Switch was $300, you really think that the cheap version of the newest console is only going to be $50 more than $300? That would be insane. that would be a great deal, but I seriously doubt it. So I'll just predict that there are 2 models, and that 400 is the base one, and then 450 is the souped up model. And speaking of prices, let me segue a little bit into games here. I am so sad to say this, but I do think that $70 will become the new norm for first-party games, and sure, they will dial it back, and $60 will be like the new $50 price tag for a lot of these games. And I'm sure if they believe that some of these games aren't as big and don't have as much content, then they will maybe price it for $50, but that will be super few and far between. They're going to sell most, if not all, of their first-party games for $70, and that might very well take a large hit to them because they don't really put their games on sale like ever. Like all of these Switch games from 2017 that are still classics, I get it, but they have not put any of their first-party games on sale permanently. There are no price drops. There is nothing. It's just Nintendo quality, and Nintendo prices just stay the same. So I really hope that if they do the $70 thing, they at least bring back Nintendo Selects in a certain way. Maybe just with the old Switch games for Switch 2, they put those down to like $30, maybe even $20. Back in the old days, it was $20 for each Nintendo Select. But I don't know. I hope that they do that, but I do predict a $70 standard because they just want to make sure that they can get as much money as possible out of all of these games that I'm sure they're putting a lot of money into in time and quality and effort. And it'll probably be worth it for a lot of it, but most of it I kind of think people will be upset about. And my final prediction for the Switch 2 itself is I just think it's going to be as powerful as a PS4, perhaps a PS4 Pro. It's going to be able to do a lot more than what the Switch could do, and it's going to be capable of running third-party games such as Elden Ring, and I think GTA 6 potentially could be on there, The Witcher 4, all of those games in like the next-gen type stuff. I think it's very possible for them to release all of these games on that platform, so you're not going to be at a disadvantage anymore by buying a Switch 2. You're going to be pretty much on the same level as every other console. Of course, Xbox and PlayStation, they're always going to be a little bit more beefy, but on the go, and for the Switch 2, this is going to be a lot beefier than we had initially expected. Games are going to look phenomenal on the Switch, and Nintendo EPD, the actual developers behind their first-party games, these first-party games are going to look so good, and we're going to wonder how in the world that these games look as good as they do, because I feel like a lot of people, like with Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Tears of the Kingdom, sure there were some graphical issues here and there in which those could be spruced up just by having more raw power, but in terms of art style, people wonder, how could it look better than this? And I think people are going to say it again this generation. It's going to look even better, and people are going to wonder, how in the world does this look this good? Moving on to the next prediction, I'm going to talk a little bit about games now. I think that the Switch 2 is going to launch with a new 3D Mario, day and date with the console, and Elden Ring will also be there day one as a port. So now you can play Elden Ring wherever you want on official Nintendo hardware. All of these different games are probably going to come over as well. Third party are going to be so much happier to develop different ports and optimizations for the Switch 2 and not have to worry about getting things to run on the Switch. Even though there are a lot of amazing third-party games on the Switch 2 will just make things so much easier for people to develop, and that will be a fantastic model for them. But it will launch with a 3D Mario game. The first 3D Mario game, brand new, standalone title since Mario Odyssey in 2017. And yes, Mario Kart 9 will also be coming later in the year, and they're going to talk all about that in the presentation for the Switch 2, and I am excited to see both of those games because it has been over 10 years, and it will have been over 11 years by the time Mario Kart 9 comes out, from Mario Kart 8 back on the Wii U, and then obviously since 2017, since the 3D Mario game, Odyssey. I'm excited for both those. I can't wait for the innovations that they are going to bring to both of those games, and it's going to be absolute fire. My next prediction has to do with the Zelda franchise, and it's not what you would expect. I'm going to say that within the first couple of months of January, February of 2025, they are going to reveal Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess for the Switch and Switch 2. Now, obviously, backwards compatibility means that it will be playable for the Switch 2, so I wouldn't be surprised if they announced a Wind Waker port before the Switch 2's reveal sometime in January, and we were like, oh my goodness, Wind Waker, finally, what the heck, waited for so long. All of these leakers have been saying this for years. They've been holding on to it, and I believe them. I truly do believe them. I don't know why they would lie like this or put their reputation out there like this. I believe that they're hearing from someone that Wind Waker is coming, and a lot of the recent rumors have said that it's just Wind Waker, because we had heard before it was a Wind Waker Twilight Princess package, but now it might just be Wind Waker, so I don't know what's going on with Twilight Princess. I would love to get that game as well. I've not actually ever played Twilight Princess. I have played Wind Waker, but I'm excited for both of them, and I really do think that Wind Waker will be a port on the Switch. My next prediction is I believe that the Nintendo Switch 2 will either launch with or within the first couple of months have an enhanced version of Breath of the Wild. This goes back to some of my very early videos and rumors and leaks and all of these other things that I've covered, but essentially there was a code name called Yu-King-O that was found by leakers, and Yu-King was the code name for Breath of the Wild when it was in development, and O we now know stands for ounce, which is the code name for whatever the Switch successor is going to be. So it is pretty much almost guaranteed that there is some version, spruced up version of Breath of the Wild. And then there were rumors way back earlier this year in which they talked about people were testing out the Switch 2 and they were showing developers what it was capable of by showing them the spruced up version of Breath of the Wild. And I think they're going to release it, and it will probably be $70 standalone. But if you already have Breath of the Wild, they'll probably take a Sony approach and let you buy an upgrade for $10, $15, $20 just to experience that game again. I know I would shell out the money to buy it myself for the upgrade. So I think it's going to cause a lot of discourse, and this is going to be the Switch successor's new stink. The stink is going to be the $70 price tag for all of the first games, and then they're probably going to announce a bunch of different enhanced ports and versions of these older games from the Switch. Mario Odyssey, perhaps Tears of the Kingdom, it could definitely use a spruced up version. And all of these games are going to cause people to just go crazy. It's going to be the new thing to hate on the Switch 2 for, is just old games being remastered and brought up to this new quality standard. People are going to be mad just how they were when Wii U ports were pretty much all we got in 2018 for the Switch. They're going to be like, oh, all these old games coming here and it's not new and blah, blah, blah. That's what people are going to talk about. And it's going to be a ridiculous discourse unless they end up charging $70 no matter what for it. Like they don't even give people who have already bought it a chance to upgrade for a cheap price, which I do think that would probably be kind of ridiculous for all of these games. If they would make us buy it for $70 again, that would just be ridiculous. That is completely different, however, from the Wii U ports over to the Switch, and I would have been there defending it if I had my channel back then, but I didn't, so this is totally different, and I do think that would be dumb if they did $70 for all of these enhanced ports and don't give us any pre-existing owner bonuses. And of course, backwards compatibility is still there, so if you could get a regular Switch version of Breath of the Wild and you just wanted to play it on the Switch 2, you wouldn't have to jump to upgrade for the $70 enhanced version. But if you did, that's still an option. And as kind of like a 1-2 punch prediction here, I'm going to say that there are going to be no other Zelda games this year. They might announce it in the September or late Direct of 2025 for the next year, whatever the next Zelda game is going to be, but I don't think we're going to see any mention of a brand new Zelda this year. The Wind Waker at the beginning of the year, the enhanced Breath of the Wild port will tide us over for Zelda. That'll be plenty of Zelda content for that year, and then they'll have enough time to cook up the next stuff for the next generation of Zelda. Definitely, the 3D games have been taking so much longer, and it will have only been like 2 years since Tears of the Kingdom release, and I know there's potential that they have been working on the next Zelda for a while, because obviously they didn't do DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, and they had said pretty much that a year before its release that it was done. They had just spent most of the time polishing it and getting all the bugs out, which I don't think would necessarily require an entire development team to be working on. So perhaps they split the team up. 3/4 of it began working on the new Zelda for the new console, and the rest of the fourth spent the rest of the year to develop and make sure that the bugs of Tears of the Kingdom were working and the physics were fine. So I don't think we see a new Zelda in this year, 2025, but perhaps an announcement for a new one. My next prediction is that Metroid Prime 4 will release as a dual platform release, perhaps a day one release that might cut into the sales of it a little bit for it to release on the same day as the new Mario game and the new, perhaps enhanced Breath of the Wild port. But I do think that they're going to want to get that out there as soon as possible. Let the OG Switch owners buy that game, and then let the Switch 2 Day 1 buyers have it on the new console. The next time we see Metroid Prime 4, it will be at the Switch 2 conference presentation, whatever they do. We're going to see a bunch of gameplay for it. They're going to announce a $70 version for the Switch 2, and perhaps keep it at $70 for the Switch 1, but I think that'll be a price difference. It'll be $60 for the Switch version and $70 for the Switch 2, and then people are going to be mad about that price as well, but come on, y'all. It's Metroid Prime 4. We have been waiting for this game quite literally since the first E3 of the Switch's life. About 4 months after the console released, we got a trailer for this game, and now 8 years later, we will finally get it on both the Switch 1 and the next console. I think there will be a couple directs this year, one early on with the presentation, one around June, and another one in September, per usual. I don't think there will be 4, just the regular presentation and the 2 in September and June. They're going to use a lot of their announcements in the 2017 type presentation, so I don't know perhaps if they're going to have as many directs this year, but then again, a lot of people thought the same thing for 2017, and then they came absolutely guns a-blazing in June, and to be honest, a lot of those directs were full of just first-party stuff because the third parties weren't even convinced that Nintendo was going to succeed, so this time around, all they really have to do for these directs is to announce like 3 to 5 first-party games per direct, which shouldn't be too hard because they have a lot of stuff going at one given time. And obviously this year we can see in the very last year of the Switch's life, we didn't even really have any one big massive first-party game, and yet we had a game what felt like every single month, especially towards the end of the year. So they can definitely get a lot more output going with all of their new workers and these studios combined. They're finally getting their stride going. And I'm sure they have been cooking up a lot of amazing games for the next console. So thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. That is all the predictions I have for today. I appreciate you so freaking much. Make sure to like and subscribe the video if you enjoyed, to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. We're getting there, and I am just so grateful to all of you, and I'm just so glad that I can provide y'all some content to just forget about your day for a little bit and to focus on Nintendo and just to be excited about the future. I'm really glad I can be that outlet for you, so I appreciate you so much. You make sure you have a wonderful day. My name is Ray. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk, and I will see y'all in the next video.